You are listening to Radical Sacred, a podcast centered around spirituality, nature, and connection.
I'm Phil Dickey, pastor, eco-spiritualist, activist, friend of trees, and a small-town Missourian living in the heart of Dallas.
And I'm Jenny Mislin, spiritual director, teacher, seeker, bird watcher, and a homesick Texan living in France.
Join us now as we live the questions, learn from open-hearted conversations, and explore our own deep and sacred roots.
On Friendship by Khalil Gibran, excerpted from the Prophet. And a youth said, "Speak to us of friendship." And he answered, saying, "Your friend is your needs answered. He is your field which you sow with love and reap with thanksgiving, and she is your board and your fireside. For you come to him with your hunger, and you seek him for your peace. When your friend speaks her mind, you fear not the nay in your own mind, nor do you withhold the a. And when he is silent, your heart ceases not to listen to his heart. For without words in friendship, all thoughts, all desires, all expectations are born and shared with joy that is unacclaimed. When you part from your friend, you grieve not, for that which you love most in her may be clear in her absence, as the mountain to the climber is clear from the plain. And yet there be no purpose in friendship, save the deepening of the spirit. For love that seeks aught but the disclosure of its own mystery is not love, but a net cast forth, and only the unprofitable is caught. And let your best be for your friend. If he must know the ebb of your tide, let him know its flood also. For what is your friend that you should seek her with hours to kill? Seek her always with hours to live. For it is his to fill your need, but not your emptiness. And in the sweetness of friendship, let there be laughter and sharing of pleasures. For in the dew of little things, the heart finds its morning and is refreshed. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Jenny, and thank you, Khalil Gibran, too. Beautiful. Friends, we are grateful for you joining us today, because today is our 100th episode. I feel like I need a soundtrack that's like, wah, 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 you know? And as Jenny and I really kind of thought about, like, how do we want to do our 100th episode? What do we, how do we want to celebrate this? We thought, well, it'd be fun to have somebody like interview us, essentially. And so as we thought about like who are the people would be really fun to have interview us, we were looking back and reflecting on just all of the episodes we've done over the last 99 episodes, and thought, well, Melissa Fritchle would be really awesome to have with us, because we just love the curiosity she brings to the world and the conversations that she's brought thus far with us. And just the perspective that you bring, Melissa. And so thank you so much for saying yes and for joining us today and being willing to flip the table here a little bit and ask us some questions and moderate for us here.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor. I've been telling my friends how, touched I am by getting to be invited back for this. So thank you very much.
Well, just as a reminder, if people haven't listened to the previous episodes you've been on, you're a wild guide. You're an eco-spiritual director, a therapist, author of the Conscious Sexual Self Workbook, and also Soul Entwined with Earth, which is your substack. And again, just a general friend of the pod who's been on here. I think you've been on 2 or 3 times. This is the 3rd time.
Yeah. This is the 3rd time. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yes, I know. I feel like we're growing together, all of us doing our things. So, 100 episodes, 100 sacred conversations you've had here. It's wow, what a gift. I'm excited to hear more about how this has changed you and been a part of your life. Yeah. So
I love that you use the word growing, because I think that's, I may have referenced this on the pod before, but not whenever we've done our video versions now, that if you haven't tuned into YouTube, we now have a video version, as I look directly at the camera here. But when I think of growing, right, like this idea of radical sacred and the idea of roots, like thinking about how it's necessary for the roots to grow down as the tree grows up, and I found this in Colorado, this image. And so if you're not watching on YouTube, it's a tree, and instead of having leaves, it has hearts growing out. And as you look down at the roots growing down below, it's actually the roots are wrapped around a heart down below too. And so I love this image. I found this in Colorado Estes Park. And I just, when I think of growing, that's what I think of, right? Like there's the growth downward, inward, as well as the growth outward and upward, whatever that looks like and means. But I love to use the word growth.
Yeah. Well, I'm curious, when you look back at the beginning of this, 2.5, or maybe your conversation started much longer before that, and this where the seed of radical sacred grew from. What were your hopes, when you started this, when you first started in conversation with each other?
We're gonna be so bad at this, Jenny, because we're no, you go. So I think we've mentioned probably many times on the podcast, but Jenny and I worked at a church together for a lot of years, and just working in a church, especially a big church, a mega church, there were often just things that you weren't supposed to talk about or couldn't talk about. And some of the circles that we had at the church were people who wanted to talk about those things. And so if you wanted to talk about them, they had to be done in much smaller contexts, which I think lend themselves best to what Jenny and I's giftings are anyway. We actually thrive more in the smaller context of things. But just this recognition that like there's these small pockets of people wanting to have these more in-depth rooted conversations, but not having a venue to really do it on a broader scale. And so it was kind of this ongoing question of how do we scale this, for lack of a better term? Like, how do we take this desire to have more depth and not just kind of be a mile wide and inch thick, but really like create space for diving deeper. And we, again, we loved teaching. We love being in small groups. We love doing those kind of things. And again, I still think thrive in those spaces, but just this recognition that there's an opportunity to do that at broader scale for a broader audience in something like a podcast. And so we toyed with the idea for quite a while. And even after both of us had left the church, we toyed with that idea for a long time. And we actually plotted out 4 episodes in 2001.
Okay, wow.
And piloted those 4 episodes. Did we record 2 of them, Jenny? See, now you got to pop in because you got to fill in the space here. Because I think that's right. We had recorded 2 of them with Dexter.
Yeah.
Right?
We do. But looking at them, because we couldn't remember, if you don't know us personally, we're not always the most organized of people. Like we get excited about things, good at vision casting, I think, and being excited about the thing, not always good at the follow through of the thing. Because there are so many fun things to do, right? And we both like variety, we're both curious people, all those things. But we looked back at what our 4 first episodes were, and they were on nature. They were on rest, nature, silence, and the fullness of emptiness. And as
which has kind of been a roadmap for
we haven't veered too far from that. And so I think our hopes were just to talk about the things that matter most to us. To have fun conversations together. I don't think that we could have ever dreamed that we would talk to the people that we've gotten to talk to. I really, really don't. I think our first season was a lot of just the 2 of us with occasional guests, and we loved that. That was so fun. But it's really morphed into getting to talk to people that have been, just spiritual giants for both of us, and people who are new into our worldview, into our perspectives, that have shifted things for both of us. And so I think our hope was just like sitting around and talking to each other, and hopefully other people would join us. And it's just far exceeded those things. And so it's been really
I feel like I need to caveat too and say, when we talk like scalable, broader audience, right? Like we've never had this huge desire of like, oh, we're going to rank in the top 10 and, or like any like kind of like goals like that. Partially because we are both withdrawing numbers on the Enneagram, and like goals aren't a thing that we do well, but more so it was almost like we're doing this for us kind of thing, but us inspired by the experiences we've had with other people, right? So like where our experiences and our like hopes for this expression kind of like overlap with what the conversations we've had with so many other individuals. So it's like, how do we take those conversations and contain them here in this space? And see, look, Mooch wants to be a part of the conversation too, Jenny. It's okay. Look, this is our 100th episode. We get to have our dogs on this episode. I just feel like it's necessary.
Gets to celebrate. Yeah.
But yeah, just that recognition though, that like, it's never been just about like, let's grow a huge audience here, right? It's really been about like, let's stay true to who we are and what we really wanted to create out of this. And that was, I would say it's true to us, but it's true to us in the sense of it's never just been about us either too, right? Like it's been about the broader conversation.
Well, and that, if your inspiration was coming together around bringing nature into spirituality and into your churches and into your lives and rest, like that sounds like a much more natural way for this to grow. The roots are going out and it's a part of these conversations with other people, with each other, with your lives changing.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think, we're very different people in a lot of ways. Like we roll through the world kind of differently where, I don't know, we have a lot of differences. Our roots are pretty similar. Just the ways that we were raised and like smaller, simpler, more natural settings, being outdoors all the time, having that be a huge portion of like who we are. Both of us having moved away from those things some as adults, just out of busyness and like, being in Dallas, being in North Texas, it's not the prettiest of places. You can forget about the natural world a little bit, and you can Dallas is a place where the lights are always on. And so you can forget about the pace of things and the invitation to slow down and take time for the flowers and take time for the rhythm of life, really. And so I think more than anything, it's been, well, not more than anything, but one of the many things that it's been is the return more to our roots and the things that feel most natural to us. And that is like standing barefoot outside and taking time for the things that matter most and that are small, simple pleasures. And it's a struggle sometimes. It still is for us, right? But I don't know. It's been a good reconnection to the things that we were both rooted in to start from.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful. It's good to have someone who continues to remind you and call you back. And I love the poem, which is that friends meet a sacred need, and it sounds like you really do for each other. And I love that this started from a friendship, especially a friendship between a man and a woman, which seems like such a beautiful thing to show people and, to bring forth. So I wonder how your relationship has continued to influence this, and how are you meeting each other in a sacred need way?
That's a good question. Yeah.
Especially as it went from Ginny being in Texas to Ginny being in Michigan to Ginny being in France, like more and more distance continues to, I think in a lot of ways, like that idea of calling back, I do think that's a big piece of it. Well, I'll speak for myself here. Like Ginny knows this, but like I get stuck in my head a lot. And so Ginny's always been a really good person that helps draw me back to the heart space, or I'll say draw me back to where, like, it is drawing back. I just often forget, right, that there is a heart space there that I have to touch into as well. And have always so appreciated that, like, really that spiritual director, like such that nature that Ginny is a spiritual director, but that's just her nature too. Like that's just so much of who she is and the way she shows up in the world for herself and for the people around her. And so it's always been that sense of drawing back. And like and I think the podcast models it sometimes too. Like we start with the poem every time that Ginny has picked. 90% of the time, 98% of the time, Ginny has picked the opening poem for us. Of the 100 episodes we have now, probably all of them, but maybe one or two. And I even had a friend one time be like, hey, with podcasting, you either catch people or lose them in the first 30 seconds. And so I just worry that you doing poems every time loses people. And I was like, yeah, I hear that. And also, it's just true to who we are. Like, and it's back to that, episode 2 of our initial mapping out was all about rest. And like, as opposed to like trying to get people with something real flashy, like, no, it really is about a different way of being in the world of, we're going to start our podcast with a poem because that's what grounds us and roots us. And so we're inviting you into that same space. And I just feel like that's what a lot of this friendship has been for me, at least. It's just a reminder of my roots and a grounding, not to get lost in my head where it'll float away sometimes, but really to stay like connected back to my heart, but also my body too, and just being rooted to the natural world around me.
Beautiful. Yeah.
I think it's, you can view us as kind of the head and the heart of things, right? Like I'm very feelings-based, feels real thoughtful, and thinks a lot about a lot of things. And it's been really lovely to see, I guess, me think more. I don't know. But think more about theology and about all the good things that Phil brings. And so he really fills in a lot of the spaces that I'm lacking, And so theological perspective, thinking about the Bible, and nobody loves Bible more than Phil. Maybe some people do. I don't know.
There's some that do. Yeah, it's probably true.
But he loves it, and he invites me to love it too in a way that I just haven't ever really. And he invites me to remember the good things about it and to center around those things, I think. And also he leads with curiosity and non-judgment a lot. And that's very helpful for me because I can be pretty judgy. Mooch too. That's why we're always barking at our neighbors. But, it just helps me. It helps me remember my own curiosity and everyone else's sacredness by the way that Phil rolls through the world. And I'm going to mute for a minute while Mooch barks.
Okay. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah. So it's being reminded of core parts of yourself and called back again and again. And I know you begin each session with, some moments of quiet together and prayer. And that's also really grounding and beautiful. Yeah. What surprised you that you've learned about yourself in doing this?
I have to go first because Jenny's laughing over there. I don't know if it's about Mooch or if it's about the surprise. Apparently it's about Mooch. No, what surprised? I think, again, being withdrawing numbers, being people who do love ideas and visions and all that, but like, I think the consistency and the sticking with it, I think sometimes that has surprised me that, this is just like something we quote unquote do for fun. There's no real incentive here. There's no I don't know, payout's the wrong word, but like, this is just something we do purely for the desire to do it and the want to do it. And, and I know that we're both busy people, and whether moving internationally or just just being busy. So there would be a lot of reasons to have never started it, much less quit. And I think in some ways the surprise has been no, there's continues to be this, even 100 episodes in, this recognition that there's huge value here, and there continues to be huge value here, at least for the two of us. But I think we can say more than just the two of us. I think we've heard from people that there's bringing value to their lives as well. And so that shouldn't be surprising, I guess. But in some ways, yeah, you just put something out in the world, never knowing what it's going to do, or what the value add will be for other people. And then to hear that is oh yeah, there is a little bit of a surprise to that sometimes, Yeah.
I think, well, I'll speak for me personally, but both of us kind of wonder sometimes if our presence matters. I think, does our presence matter? Is what we're doing making any sort of difference? Those kinds of things. And this has really shown me that everyone's presence matters. Everyone's presence, bringing your fullest self matters the most right now, just the most. But creating spaces for people to share in conversation that feel safe and alive and invitational is a rare thing, I think. Any two dum-dums can host a podcast, and that's true. Anybody can host a podcast, anybody, and a lot of anybody's do. It's a different thing to take time to create a space for people to unfold. And I really am into spaces where people can unfold and remember themselves and remember their purpose and remember what matters most to them. And so being able to do that all the time has just reminded me that I do do have a purpose and I do have a place, and it's in conversation and it's in building relationships and it's in all the things that sometimes like very large churches don't have a lot of time for or show a lot of interest in, which is where I've always worked. And it reminds me that that's not my space anymore, you know, and it reminds me that, I don't know, conversation and intimacy matter so much right now. They just really do. I know that that's kind of a random thing as our president threatens to bomb an entire country, saying that conversation and presence matters, but it does. Intimacy matters. Remembering that you are sacred and that everyone around you is sacred matters. So yeah, this has been, yeah.
Can I also just add too, I think that the other thing that surprised me is just the ability to do hard things. You know, like I wrote a poem and read it on our podcast, which I would have never done had it not been for multiple episode build up. But like just the way that this has changed me and opened me to a lot of things, you know? So yeah, I think there's ways that I even end up showing up on the podcast that surprise me still, you know, that I'm like, oh, I asked that question, or like, oh, I had that response, or, you know, like, it still sometimes surprises me of who I am when I'm in a space like this, like a safe space like this, you know, a space that I feel like I actually can thrive in and be my true self.
Yeah, I mean, that's the sacred, those moments, right, of magic where you surprise even yourself, or and you use the word intimate, Jenny, and I think that's, you know, it's hard sometimes to make those spaces, and you know, you're not in the same room, you're, you know, you don't know who's listening at any time, but it seems like you both really have. And I'm wondering, you know, what you've learned about creating that kind of collaborative, intimate partnership, co-creating with both each other and your guests.
Yeah. You know, I think when we first started having people on, have we always done a moment of centering in silence with people? I can't remember.
I think so.
Okay.
And it's amazing how many people like are blown away by it too. They're like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. You know, like it continues to be a thing that people are like, I needed that.
Yeah. But I think the first few times we did it, I was like, is this okay? Like, do people do this before they start a podcast? Is this all right? Because it does seem counterintuitive to be like, well, before we do this thing that everybody's going to listen to, let's pause for a minute in the middle of everyone's busy schedule. And also, everyone needs a minute to breathe. Everybody needs a minute to feel their feet on the floor. Everybody needs a minute to remember their own holiness and sacredness and that of other people. And I think that invitation really brings the best out of us, and brings the best out of other people. You tend to share a lot deeper stuff when you feel like the people that are interviewing you care. Like you tend to say, that's why we asked you to interview us, right? That's why we asked you. Because people who can build that safe container and who, have presence for you, you're gonna say stuff to them. You're gonna be more intimate. And I don't want to do something that's just like, let's talk about your book and let's, like we talk about people's books, but I want to know you and how you feel and like what's going on with you. That really matters to me. Again, intimacy, right? So, creating those spaces together has been really cool. And I think both of us, again, come from different backgrounds, right? Spiritual director, pastor, and also we are both people that care deeply about other people. And I want people to feel safe and known in our presence. Like it matters deeply to both of us that people feel that way with us. So it's cool. It's cool to do that with people we've never met. And it's cool to do that. It's cool to do that weekly. It's cool to do that so that other people can hear it.
I mean, one thing I love about being a guest on your show is that I have had these moments where I feel like you both let yourselves be surprised by the conversation as well. And that's really special in, being interviewed or being brought on as a guest, where the people bringing you in and hosting you are open to the conversation and being changed. So, yeah.
I love it when stuff goes the direction that we didn't see. Like, it's my favorite. It's my most favorite thing when we start asking questions that we did not, like, we always plan, you know, you plan before.
We really means Jenny always plans. Not exclusively, but mostly Jenny maps out questions and like
you plan and you know the subject matter, right? And then you're open to whichever way the river flows. Like, we have no agenda when we're talking to people, not any. You know, we just we wanna go where the river flows, and it's always the best, most surprising, beautiful, wonderful, interesting ways that have fundamentally shaped us and changed us. I think you know, I'm not the same person I was when we started this podcast, and it's in part because of the conversations that we've had here with people that are so wise and so invested in what they're doing. And I love being with people who have come alive to themselves. Like, that's one of my most very favorite things to do. And so to do that all the time is a real gift. Yeah.
Lovely. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I find myself being the most present in conversations when I'm not just focused on the intellectual part of it, you know, like that, because sometimes that's been my downfall, is like, I want to sound smart, you know, so I want to know all the things, and like, that's been my safety blanket though, you know, is to do all the research and know all the things, and so show up acting all smart. But this really has been no, you don't have to be the smart one here, you get to just ask fun questions. And so like, sometimes there's the head part of coming up with the questions, but really when I'm really present in the conversation is when those questions come naturally, you know, like, again, Jenny does a great job of mapping out, like, here's a roadmap of some questions we could ask. And some of my favorite conversations have been the ones where we ask one of those questions, and then it just, like you said, the river flows and we are just tuned in. And that's because it's piquing theological or like intellectual interest, but often it's really stirring my heart, you know, or even just really stirring my soul in the midst of the conversation we're having, that's leading to a much deeper wanting to understand that person and like what it is that they're bringing and the experiences they've had that have led them to, you know, write a book about this, or a blog, you know, Substack blog. People blog still, but like, just like really get to the essence of the whole conversation, as opposed to just sticking to an intellectual topic.
Yeah. What's it been like to show up as yourself and allow yourself to be honest with, you don't know who, right? Like, this is going to be listened to by people, hopefully, that you'll never meet, never know. You know, what's that been like to be open in that way?
Yeah, there's definitely a vulnerability to it, you know?
Yeah.
And, you know, I used to joke early on with Jenny of like, I feel like it's free spiritual direction for me, you know, like, because and sometimes the way it's crafted, and in some ways it is that, you know, like, it is a vulnerability and it is a sharing, and it does feel a little scary sometimes in things you say. And then also like, but isn't that what ultimately we want though, is to create spaces where people do get to show up as their authentic selves? And it does feel a little weird, right? Like, there's the parasocial mentality of it. I think for both of us, because we are so relationship oriented, it's always that question of, but how is it falling? And like, what is it stirring in other people? And how do we make the connections to then know who they are and what is happening for them? And, you know, and sometimes that's happened with audience that we've had opportunity to connect with. And more times than not, I assume, right, we're never going to know who those people are or what is actually happening there. And there's a part of me that's like, still wants that, you know, and there's another part of me that just thinks if it is intended to happen, it will happen. And if they don't ever need to make connections with Jenny and I, hopefully that's totally fine, because they're going to make connections with either the human connections around them or the more than human world around them to find that deeper intimacy where they can show up in vulnerability themselves as well.
It's, you know, it's tricky being vulnerable. It's easy for me to do in small groups, right? It's easy for me to do with my friends. It's harder when I know whoever could be listening to this, you know. And sometimes whoever does listen to it, right? And that's tricky too. But there have been a few times where I've been like, I overshared. Like, I talked about too many things. I said things that I probably shouldn't publicly. And anytime that happens, somebody's going to reach out to me and be like, hey, thank you for saying excellency, you know? So vulnerability is so scary. And also it's all we have. Like it's all we have. It's our truest selves getting to shine through. And it matters so deeply because it invites other people to be vulnerable. And we need more vulnerable people, you know.
Absolutely. Yes. In a time when things can feel very hostile, it's really such an important model to show that you can show up and have trust in people and trust in yourselves. Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah. What's one belief that you used to hold that maybe has changed because of your explorations and these sacred conversations on Radical Sacred?
Oh gosh.
I think just my beliefs around busyness, and you know that being busy, that doing all these things added to my value. And I don't think that anymore. I didn't do much of anything today, friends, except for work in the camp. And I still have value. Like, so I think busyness, and I do think that returning to nature portion has been just really life-changing and invitational, and not a new thing, but a returning to.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's funny because it almost feels like the word belief is too small of a container. Like it kind of feels more like, and maybe worldview is a part of belief, or belief is part of worldview, I guess. But it does feel like there's been an opening in general in me of just through the conversations we've had, right? That, you know, as I scan through and look at all the people we've, you know, like people like a Kara English who, you know, then we saw at Wild Goose and we sat with at a table and we did tarot cards with, you know, like, again, would have never done that 5 years ago, but here we were, had just such rich conversations around this divine tarot deck that I ended up purchasing because I thought it was so fascinating. I know I have a tarot deck now.
I love it. I love that you have one. That's so fun.
Right? Like so I think that's really the biggest thing for me was like it's, and again, yeah, nature part, right? And as much as I've always loved nature, I've never imagined, or like I've never allowed, I'm going to put it this way, I've never allowed myself to recognize that I do converse with the more than human.
Yeah.
You know, like in some ways I've known it's always been a part of me, but like there's just some things you don't really kind of admit to yourself. Like, oh no, that tree really is catching my attention. Or like when I went home for Thanksgiving last year, it was like, there's a tree that's on the property I grew up on that has been calling out to me, and I have to go see that it's still there. And it was still there, and now it's the background on my phone, right? Like it just, that tree was, I don't know exactly what it was communicating to me yet. It's still part of what I'm working out, but like it was definitely calling out to me and saying something to me. And it's made me be more open and aware to the world around me, again, simply based on the conversations we've had here. Well, I won't say simply. The conversations we've had through Radical Sacred have then opened a whole new world to me to be in conversation with people that continues to open me to be more receptive to the human and more than human world around me.
Yeah. I mean, the tree was communicating that it cares that you are there and that you're in relationship with it. And that's beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm wondering about other ways you might have felt or found deeper ways to listen in this process.
That's good. We talked to Brooke Williams, who wrote the book Enchanting Dragonfly. Is that right? No.
I have it. Hold on. You keep talking and I'll look
Encountering Dragonfly.
Encountering Dragonfly. Re-enchanting the world or something like that. Yeah.
Like looking through the world through re-enchantment or something like that.
Yeah. Sorry, Brooke. We ruined your book title.
Yeah. We love you. You're so great. But he talks about how dragonflies showing up have been like a through line in his life, like an invitational calling, this thing that he has to pay attention to, all these things. And I've always felt that way about birds. Like ever since I was little, it's been birds, right? They show up. When we were making the decision to move to France, I looked in the front yard and there was like probably 50 robins in our front yard. And I was like, okay, All right, calm down, Robbins. But I think just what keeps turning up is a good question. For me right now, it's butterflies. It's springtime in France. They keep turning up. And I'm paying attention to them. I'm paying attention to their journey, going from a little guy that just slinks around to turning into goo and a cocoon to turning into a butterfly. Like, that is a journey that I can identify with. I'm paying attention to spring.
Yeah.
How everything in a few weeks goes from looking real dead and hopeless to the most beautiful thing that you've ever seen.
Yeah.
I think there's been a real re-enchantment.
There's that re-enchantment.
And he's usually not this rowdy. An invitation to recognize what's inviting me to pay attention.
I do think that season 2, when we talked a lot about pilgrimage, one of the things that really came up about pilgrimage was attention and intention. And I think that's continued to kind of be a theme as well of what is the intentionality that we bring, not just the conversations, but like how do the conversations then bring us or invite us to a deeper intention around us, and like what are we paying our attention to? And so I think that has very much shifted and molded and continued to make me as well. Whether it's trees or birds or dragonflies or butterflies or water in general, like I think water plays a big role for both of us, but just also a lot of the conversations we've had too. And I mean, even just Shiley recently, right? Talking with her when we interviewed Shiley Smith about water. And so, yeah, just it. And I don't know, I'm not a neuroscience by any means, but I do feel like it's reopening or opening new pathways in the brain, like this kind of neuroplasticity that's totally been transformed by the way this has allowed my brain to interact with the world around me.
Beautiful. And probably your bodies as well.
Yes, see, there I am, back to my head again, right? Yeah, but yes, absolutely.
Beautiful. I know this is probably really hard, but is there a conversation that stands out that you've had with one of your guests that really surprised you the most or lit something up in you that you didn't expect? It's like, what's your favorite meal you've ever had? I mean,
right.
There's been so many. I'm going to limit it to this season though, because that's helpful for me just in thinking terms. But we got to talk to Padre Gotuma, the poet, and peacekeeper and all of us things. And that was such a fun, whimsical, invitational way of thinking about peacekeeping and being someone that turns up in hard places and helps other people connect, and being aware how much he loves words and wordplay and how much reading plays a part in his life. That was a really foundational one for me. Again, Brooke Williams talking about the dragonflies was a really, really mind-blowing, cool conversation. What about you, Phil? I could go on.
That's the problem, right? There's so many that I think there's also kind of been this funny theme where we're like, who is this person again? And like, what, with some of these conversations where we're just like, how do we get connected to this person? And we sit down and talk with them like, oh my gosh, where have you been all of our lives? So I do think there's been that's a theme for us of, we're just so fortunate to have made some really good connections that have made broader connections for us that just continue to blow us away. I mean, I think of Wes Grainberg Michelson last year at the end of our pilgrimage season, where it was like we had this conversation with Wes and we were like, how do we have an entire season and not have you on before this? Because you just summed up so much of our entire season in this one episode. And I think it influenced the work that I'm doing at the seminary, of like the way that we're really approaching pilgrimage. I think it's made me rethink just kind of journeys in life in general. And like that, when we think of pilgrimage, so often we think of the Camino or these big destinations, but the reality that like anytime you walk out your door, like in some ways that's a pilgrimage in and of itself. And even more than that, like those are all external pilgrimages, but there's an internal pilgrimage that takes place every single day. it's pilgrimage is extroverted mysticism and mysticism is introverted pilgrimage, like that, like
We're
that
like,
statement
what?
just like blew our minds, and that's not his
Oh,
statements
that's
from the
wonderful.
Turners, but like,
Yeah,
so I think Wes's interview just truly blew our minds because we've been doing so much around nature and wilderness and wild. Victoria Lourdes was a really big one, and then Valerie coming on as well. I think those conversations were extremely impactful for me and continue to be. And, I continue to connect with them and the work that they're doing in the world. And I would say is still also shaping and helping me grow, back to the word grow. And again, like it's wild that we got to interview Rob Bell. Like both Jenny and I, as we look back at as our journey of faith, like that's somebody that was kind of like a guide for us along our journey of whether you want to call it deconstruction and reconstruction or just evolution of our faith. His books, I think, and his Numa video, like all those things played a huge role in our maturation of faith. And so to get to sit down with him and just have the most chill conversation, like was just
2 days after the election too.
Oh,
right.
Wow.
Like I don't think I'd slept when we interviewed.
We were both not in great spaces, head or heart wise, and then to just sit down and talk with him about the journey from what was it, fiction to or nonfiction to fiction, or whatever, like was really inspiring. And then I know I kind of mentioned ones that kind of blow us away we have no idea about, but like Lazarenko, like she just when again, in some ways, Melissa, I've wanted to go back and sit at your feet and learn from you in a lot of ways. And then I keep seeing your things that are like just for women, and I'm like, well, shit, okay, I guess I can't go to that one. But like similarly, like Liza does all these things, and I'm like, oh, I just want to go to Oakland and just sit at Liza's feet and continue to learn from her, because it's not even just when I say learn, it's about a way of being. It really is about this whole presence that she had around this idea of nurturing the soul and caring for the soul beyond just self-care, that I thought, like, man, it just resonated deeply with me, So, yeah, again, I could go on and on, right? We like David Hayward, Naked Pastor, right? Like people, like somebody that we both have followed for a very long time in the artwork that he's done. And so just, yeah, could go on, and just so fortunate, I feel like, to have had these conversations.
Well, come out to California. Let's go sit at the trees, feet of the redwoods for a little while. And Oakland's not far away, I mean, and I think that's such a beautiful piece, is you're building this network of community. And it, for better or worse, at this time in our world, we can do that with people that are farther away that we might not normally have. And I wonder, do you feel them with you as you move about your life?
That's a great question. Yes.
Yeah.
For sure. I think about the conversations we have all the time. Like all the time, a lot lately in talking to my kids about stuff, just because we've moved abroad and like that's hard when you're 12 and 13. The world is challenging and feels kind of hopeless sometimes. And I tend towards melancholy if I'm not super careful, And so thinking about the people that we've talked to that are so invested in inviting people back to themselves and inviting people back to caring for community and reciprocity and in all the best ways, but it's given me a lot of wisdom as I parent, I think. It's given me a lot of wisdom as I'm like, every shit's on fire. Like, I don't always know how to hold on to hope in times like this. I can turn sad, and all the people that we've talked to are like, no, you got to keep creating. You got to keep making the things. Like art matters now. Being open-hearted matters now. Real conversations matter now. Like all of those things really matter. So yeah, I think about that stuff all the time.
Yeah. I mean, I think we need that community too, because we each get to hit our points of exhaustion where other people's hope has to carry us through. Right.
I love that because that's the analogy that just was in my head, like the metaphor of, again, trees, right? That like so often the nurture that's taking place underground is this tree pushing nutrients to another tree that's hurt, and it does feel like that we have this broader network now of people And, for all the downfalls of social media, like there are times where I get to see like things that Padraig posts, right? And like be reminded of the work of Padraig or be in ongoing conversation, or even like Saren, when we interviewed Sarah, and to see the work that they're doing in the world and the beauty they're creating through music. And so yeah, for sure, the conversations still live on in my head, and like the books that we have been able to interview, like I go back to regularly, and like I still go back to Brooke's book occasionally and read about dragonflies. And we've had a couple different conversations about Teilhard, and like I go back to those from time to time. Like I feel like I have this whole not only library of resources, but like just like cloud of witnesses, to use a churchy term, if you will, of people that a root system, right? There's a whole root system that I feel like exists there. And that's the thing about roots. You don't even remember they're there typically, right? But they're doing the work under the ground that is so important for the flourishing of the tree. Yeah. And not just the tree, but the ecosystem.
Ooh, yes. And Melissa, I don't know if we've ever talked about it, but I got a strawberry tattoo because of your Substack article that mentioned strawberry. Gosh. Yeah.
Oh, thank you. It's amazing.
Isn't that awesome?
I was like, and we had an episode about it. We filmed an episode while I was getting tattooed. But yeah, just I think it goes to show that no matter who you're talking to or what circumstance it is, if you're open to it, something's going to emerge. Something's going to emerge. A nugget of wisdom, an invitation, a moment of discomfort.
Yeah.
It's not always going to be sunshines and rainbows, right? Like sometimes it's going to be, oh, that makes my heart hurt, or like whatever it is. But if you're always open, every interaction is sacred, and there's something to carry forward from all of them, if we're willing to bear witness and to be there.
Yeah, I think you're really both talking about the ways that we are interconnected, and that we as humans have tended to forget that, right? I think, or there's been a period in history in which we've really forgotten. And as you open up to conversation and to being influenced by other people and touched, like you said, touched or challenged by other people, you're honoring and feeling that inner connection, which we all need, right? And so something will show up for you as you need it. Someone will show up, with a word, an idea.
It makes me feel like that. This is me going on my tangent here for a second, but I had this thought the other day of, I think this is almost one of the larger divides that we experience in culture right now, is those who are still in a rugged individualism versus those who are coming to understand or have already fully understood the full interconnectedness of all of us, of not even just humanity, but the broader nature and creation. And and I, there's a lot of ways to divide and slice that pie, but I was thinking about that the other day, that like I feel like a huge divide within our country, and part of the polarization is just that like sense of rugged individualism and like neoliberalism, and how that, and even consumerism to some extent, like capitalism, but like how that is driving one narrative, and the other counter narrative that I would say the narrative that is our kind of saving grace right now, or the only hope that we have, is one that is bringing us and drawing us back to this sense of interconnectedness. And again, opening our eyes and our hearts and our ears and minds to that interconnectedness with the human and more than human world around us.
Yeah. What we do to the earth, we do to ourselves, right? What we do to our neighbor, we do to ourselves. It's a lesson that I believe we're going to be having in our faces quite a lot.
Yeah.
It's coming up. Yeah, we might have been able to forget for a while, but maybe not now.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Well, going to your title, Radical Sacred, I think one question I have for you is like, what does it take to be radical these days? What does it mean? What does it take to be radical?
That's a good question.
It takes being rooted. Radix, right? I think that's really why we chose that term. Is it felt a little like, maybe not oxymoronic, but it felt a little both playful but a little enticing too, right? Radical gets used in so many bad ways often. But I think what it takes to be radical is being reminded of what is at the root of who you are and who we are. And that's why the title is what it is, right? Like radical sacred. It's the rooting down to the sacred nature of who we are at the very core of our being. And so I think what it takes to be radical to me is continuing to show up and be reminded that that's our essence, full stop.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, you know, we all start off rooted. We all start off with our essence. Like it's there in the beginning, right? So sometimes you need, not sometimes, I think we always need people, I think we always need intimate connection to remind us of who we truly are. Because it's always going to point back to the best parts of us, the parts of us we need to work on too, for sure. But the parts of us that are deeply rooted, intimate connection always highlights those things, always reveals those things to us, always invites us into our purest, truest way of being. When you know and you love somebody really well, like stuff comes up for sure that you're going to have to deal with. And also the best part of you comes up. And I think talking about rugged individualism, you don't get that when it's just you. You don't get that when it's just surface level relationships. You don't get that when it's just work stuff. Like you get it when you take the time to know all of somebody, the best and the worst and all the in between. And what comes from it is your best self and their best self, and just the invitation to remember your roots.
Yeah.
And I think the hard part about radical is often that's disruptive. Like what does it take to be radical? It means there's probably going to be disruption, whether that's for your status quo, for the community status quo. Like I just think there's a disruption that takes place. Yeah, I think I'll stop there. I think I'll stop with that. There's just disruption.
Yeah. I mean, nature is change. Yeah.
And maybe we underestimated what all it would cost us to title the podcast Radical Sacred and to work at that, right? Because it does cost you false self. It does cost you a lot of things that make you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
That have been systems that have worked for you for forever. And now that you're returning to self, really, really don't anymore. So it requires change, and that's sometimes really painful.
Yeah.
And we've both been through some painful things in the last few years, like pretty freaking painful, and also if becoming a butterfly requires me turning into goo for a little while, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
I'm going to do that. I want to go through the metamorphosis of the thing. That's all there is to do. Right?
Yeah. And that is the sacred, right? To be with it, to be in it, to say yes in this way. Yeah. Well, it is no small thing to be supporting your community and conversation and role modeling in the way that you are. And just want to thank you. I want to thank you for, holding your own exhaustion and overwhelm and hope and joy and bringing that to other people and sharing that. And what's coming next? Like, is there a question that you feel right now is starting to be emerging that you want to bring to conversations?
That's a good question.
Right.
We should think about the next season. We really should.
Yeah, I think in some ways it's just revealed itself, Pilgrimage was kind of just an idea at one point, and then it was like an entire season. And then, I think, Jenny, you really reflected a lot on the idea of reciprocity, and like it just felt like it fit emerging out of all the conversations we had with Pilgrimage and what we were playing with in the nature and, biomimicry and all these kind of realms. So I think of it more of like, what are the kind of the lenses that we're experiencing and seeing now? And I say that I don't know. I'm not sure what's next. I don't know what the next chapter or season looks like for us. But
How is this season of your life affecting you and the questions you're holding?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Right.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, being in midlife is a whole ass thing. I'm turning 45 in June. And so that's just a lot to sit with. My life is half over, and that's something.
Episode or season 4, midlife crisis.
Yeah. We get convertibles, and I don't know.
Definitely just a whole season.
Yeah. But it's, it's midlife. It's being open to really big changes. Moving to France was a really big change. It's I don't think before we started doing this that I would be so open to change. I really don't. Like, I love Texas. I wanted to live there until I died. Genuinely.
And I don't love Texas and do not want to live here until I die. But I'm still here.
Yeah. But I think if anything, all these conversations that we've had have made me open to change and making mistakes sometimes, and not being like, well, that's the end of the road, but being like, and that's a part of the journey, and being more honest about how I feel and what I think and what I need. Our major recurring themes running through things right now. I'm the oldest daughter. I have an eldest daughter. I have an eldest daughter. And so we take a lot of care, and we don't ask for a lot of things. And so recognizing my own needs, recognizing that I have value outside of traditional family stuff, that I have a lot of things to say and to do and to be a part of. All of our conversations have shaped a lot of my life choices, actually. So.
It does feel like something around this idea of transition or evolution or evolving, kind of metamorphosis. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Butterfly expert. We have to have a butterfly expert on.
Oh, that's a good idea.
We'll find a butterfly expert. The theology of butterflies. I'm sure somebody put that out there somewhere.
There's no.
Yeah, it does feel like a theme for us, for sure.
Metamorphosis and change. And
we're both a little liquefied right now.
Yeah, beautiful.
And I don't know if it's a theme or not, but I think it's something we're committed to, is showing up to, like you said about art earlier, Jenny, like showing up to create beautiful things in the midst of collapse,
Yeah.
I think that's also kind of an ongoing theme here too.
Yeah.
And asking the question repeatedly, where have you found beauty lately? Like, just, it may be a repetitive question, but just so that we can remind one another that there is still beauty out there, even in the midst of bombs falling, like all the terrible things.
Yeah. There is so much beauty still, and so much horror and collapse.
Right. Yeah.
All of it.
Yeah, and how to hold that space, right, in the midst of that. But then, again, I know I mentioned Valerie already, but go back to Valerie. I kept joking about the concrete jungle that is Dallas, and she was like, but how amazing that a dandelion shoots through the concrete. And I was like, oh,
dang
God damn it, Valerie.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
And the moon is always there, the sky.
Yeah.
The wind.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Melissa, thank you for talking to us and making us hard questions. It's made us all sweaty, and it's been all sorts of good.
Good.
You tell us what you have coming up that you would like for people to know about.
I just co-launched a very exciting learning, sharing community online. It's through Mighty Networks. It's called Intimate with Moon and Soil. And it's with two collaborators, my friend Corinne London and my friend Michelle Walker, who are just amazing creative women. And we're inviting people to come in and be in conversation with us about animate consciousness, about loving this world, about how to be awake and alive in all these seasons, all these things you guys are talking about as well, right? That how to really be alive for each season as it comes and as it goes, and being in intimate conversation with ourselves and the world around us. So people should be able to find more about that on my Substack, Soul Entwined with Earth, and also my website is embody-connect.com. Yeah, I'd love to have people join us and be in conversation. Yeah.
Love it.
Thank you.
Melissa always has the best titles, always. So your titles of things, and always has the best experiences and the most life-giving things. I've done a couple of her things through Church of the Wild, and they've been so good. So check her out. Check out what she's doing. Radical Sacred. You can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts, on Substack, on YouTube, on Instagram. We have our own website now. We would like to keep going for another 100 episodes.
That's right.
Yes.
Yes. Comments, commentary, any of it, let us know. radicalsacredpod@gmail.com is the best way to get a hold of us. It's just the two of us doing this, so it helps us if you like and share our stuff. Please rate and review us on any of the podcast places. And friends.
Wait, before you do this, think about it. You think about how you're going to bless us, but you mentioned titles, and I thought the best title we've had for an episode has "You Want to See a Fresh Baby?"
Oh, that was so good. That was a good one.
Which was right. My neighbor one time, Melissa, Jenny was in town here in Texas, and they had just had a baby, and we walking by, she goes, "Y'all want to see a fresh baby?"
We were like, yes.
Yes, of course.
Our 2024 Christmas episode was, "Y'all want to see a fresh baby?"
Oh,
anyway. Okay. Now you can bless us.
Well, that's so good. Friends, in these times that are collapse oriented, it matters deeply that you connect, that you envelop yourself in intimate relationships, that you remember your roots, that you create what is on your heart and mind and in your spirit, that you lean into art and poetry and community and care, that you wave your freak flag high and find other people that want to do the same. Who you are and what you believe and where you're rooted matters. And you matter, and we're thankful for you on this journey. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you, Melissa.
Yeah.
Thank you for being a part of the Radical Sacred community.
In these uncertain times, may you cling to hope and deep connection, and may you work towards living in a spirit of reciprocity with all beings.
Our lovely intro and outro music is Beach Song by the band Saren.
And it's just the two of us here at Radical Sacred, so please help us out by sharing with your friends, rating and reviewing us. Find more of our work on Substack and Instagram.
Remember, you are on sacred ground. Stay rooted.